Yep, we are underway.
Fortunately, Parisian player, being from France, can actually read that text, and oh my goodness, that's a rich start.
A very rich start indeed. Alright, we have Eastern as vanilla green pendant, we have Hera as vanilla red pendant, and it looked like Desert was a 5-6 crystal. And confirming that on the restream. Alright, let's see what the uncle has. The Cane of Samaria. This is the third race in a row that I've seen Cane.
This is an interesting one. It doesn't have the limitations that some runners feel, that crunch with Burna where you feel like you're going to run out of magic. That doesn't happen here. But it definitely feels a lot slower to try and take out some of those guards with these blocks.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I've said, this is the third race and we've gotten Cane, but it's very interesting to see the runners use the Cane in various different ways. I've seen people throw the blocks at the soldiers. I've seen people put the block in between a soldier and aggro the soldier into the block. I've also seen them put the soldier in a corner and lock them in there with the block so they just get bonked to their death. It's very fascinating to see the different ways they can use the Cane to take out these guards.
Yeah, and of course, you know, coming up at the end of the escape sequence, there's that bombable wall, and you want to bomb for that so that you can be sure you get the 3 items from the back of escape, so you don't have to backtrack later. The Cane has enough magic. These guys are going to be able to farm some enemies along the way, and it's slow, but it'll be interesting to see how much they push into that and try and get that bomb drop.
Absolutely. Part of the name of the game with Randomizer is that you want to make as few multiple trips into places as possible. So if you can find that extra bomb, that will make sure that you don't have to come back when you get the power glove.
I think we saw an interesting little feature from Parisian there as the runners find a sword, where he still had a block in the room on the left. And so when he went to try to place a block in the room on the right, all it did was detonate a different block. It seems that's what happened there. But certainly an early sword going to make this race feel a lot more conventional here.
I hate to say it, but in the race that I commentated earlier tonight, the same thing happened. You had Cane, and then you had sword immediately in the chest and escape. We got the map there, so we've gotten the small key and we've gotten the map, so everything else along the way here will be items.
So, if you're watching this and you haven't heard of Randomizer, you're saying, what the heck is this thing? This is where we take all the items throughout Link to the Past, shuffle them up, redistribute them so that the game is still beatable, and the runners have to collect 7 crystals and defeat Ganon. Often takes between 1.5 hours to 2.5 hours, depending on the nastiness of the seed and the skill of the runners, and requires fairly extensive knowledge of the game so that the runners can figure out where they're able to go at any given point.
Absolutely, and this Randomizer has certainly been growing over the past couple of years. We have a lot of different modes that have been added to it and a lot of different fascinating things, but this tournament is, as Philion said, you basically go through the Zelda escape sequence as you would in the vanilla game, and then once you get out, the world is your oyster, and you gotta go find those 7 crystals. Sometimes that means you gotta go fight Aghanim to get to the Dark World. Usually you find the items to do that. Sometimes the pedestal may be involved, even though you're not required to pull the pedestal. Now this is different here. Even though they don't have the lamp, because we're requiring the runners to go through this sewer escape, the light cone is available to them even though they don't have the lamp. However, every other dark room that they face, they will have to have the lamp or they will be going in the dark.
Yeah, it looks like Parisian players picked up some bombs here. And a hammer! That's 3 proper weapons in the whole castle area. Great start.
Very good start indeed.
So, Parisian Player has, in the past, actually played this game blindfolded. And so he's mentioned that in some ways he hopes he never comes across the lamp. He doesn't want that light cone because he thinks it gives him a competitive advantage. He's probably right. I, for one, can't imagine playing this game without being able to see what's on screen.
Yeah, I'm kind of. This is kind of why I commentate as opposed. I run, but I'm not good at it. $20, hook shot, and swagnet. Okay, this escape has been very loaded.
You know, I see that hook shot, I see that early hammer, and I start thinking that some sort of play into Death Mountain that loops around to the Tower of Hera might be in the near future for us.
Which would be interesting considering Hera is a pendant, so usually with Randomizer, you want to go for crystal dungeons. Pendants sometimes can be hit or miss. All right, Parisian Player is the first out of the escape sequence, and at this point, he can go however his heart desires.
Looks like he's following the standard route. Gonna check on Lumberjack Cave, head down into the village, and of course, pull on that tree to see what drops for taking out some enemies, giving just a bunch of hearts this time.
Yes, and for anyone new, the reason why the Lumberjack Cave is important, those lumberjacks leave that tree after you beat Aghanim 1. So if you want to get that Book of Medora that's on the Lumberjack ledge, you got to go beat Aga 1.
Oh, that's nasty.
And you may need that to go to Desert Palace.
You may need that to get to Desert. You may need that to get the items from the 2 tablets, but you have no way of knowing that until you see what those items are. So it's going to depend on when the runners get these boots, or get the boots if they do at all. It'll depend on when doing Aga Tower becomes a possibility, and it's certainly going to be in the back of the minds.
We got Moon Pearl in the Lost Woods hut. Certainly, as we go along, we'll be discussing, you know, what items you need to get to be able to get through the dungeon. So, like Eastern Palace, for example, is really simple. You just need the bow and you need the lamp. Aghanim, Aga Tower, as we've been discussing, you either need the Master Sword or you need the Fighter Sword and the Cape to get through that force field. And then you need the lamp for the Dark Room in Aga Tower. So those are things we'll be keeping an eye on in terms of what we can get. Parisian Player is going to start in the well. There's a lot of items here in Kakariko. $20 to start.
Yeah, both runners got a 4-bomb drop, as well as a 1-bomb drop during the escape sequence. So that means they're going to have plenty of bombs to open up all the bombable walls in the village, and a bottle already.
Yes. Normally, the sick kid has an item, but you need to have a bottle in order to get it, and sometimes you have to make a second trip to get that. CeroX is going to show us what's in Blind's hut.
And just 20 rupees back from the bottle vendor today.
Just a 20% return on your investment. Heart container, piece of heart, another piece of heart, and another piece of heart. A lot of love here in Blind's hut.
This is what I like to see. I like to see the seed give out essentially 2 entire heart containers to these runners just for walking into a house in Kakariko. Makes the early game that much less stressful.
Yes, yes indeed.
I also don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, that one's a first for me too. Next up, Parisian Player is gonna make a visit to the chicken hut. $50.
I start looking at the fact that they have the hammer and the moon pearl, and I go, we must be about to see a power glove for really early Dark World access.
Certainly possible. Just one green rupee from the sick kid.
Here's $1. Please buy me some cough medicine.
Another piece of heart in the back of the tavern. Yeah, in terms of getting to the Dark World, we just need a power glove, and we can access it without going through Aghanim 1. $50 on the library ledge. And we're gonna finish up with the race game, and that'll be all of what we can do in Kakariko right now.
Yeah, I just want to point out, CeroX did decide to go into a shop, spend 50 rupees, and buy 10 more bombs. That puts him at 11 compared to Parisian's 1. And, depending on which caves these runners end up going into next, that could give a boost to CeroX.
It's possible. The next standard play is to go here south to the dam, as well as Mini Trolldorm Cave and Ice Rod Cave. You're gonna need at least 2 bombs, one for Mini Trolldorm and one for Ice Rod Cave. So to your point, Parisian player, let's hope he finds another bomb, or he's only gonna be able to do one of the 2.
Now, it's entirely possible that he looked at his rupee count and said, I'm so close to 500, I don't want to buy bombs, I want to make the trip up to Zora with fake flippers. That would be a play that wouldn't surprise me, especially if he's under the assumption that Ice Rod Cave won't pay off, and, well, now he's certainly got enough rupees.
Absolutely. Just 10 arrows inside the dam. Alright, so we're gonna have Parisian player making his way over to Mini Trolldorm Cave. 5 items here once you get rid of 5 Mini Trolldorms.
Now, if all you have is the sword or the hammer, you have to walk over to that side, but fortunately with the hookshot, you can shoot at these guys and they go down in one hit, as long as you can hit them and they're incredibly erratic movements. Parisian players got it now.
There we go. All right, next up on the agenda, 10 arrows, piece of heart, the ether medallion, treble bombs, and a container of Mountain Dew Code Red. So Parisian player got the bombs, so he can do Ice Rod Cave now.
Yeah, that's a really timely pickup for him. And of course, ether medallion, nice to see at the start, so we don't have to worry too much about what's going to be unlocking Mire and Turtle Rock. Passing up the 4 bomb drop, interestingly, maybe thinks it wasn't quite worth his time to go back for it.
In terms of the questions we may ask these runners at the end of the race, I'm sure a lot of this race is going to unfold. We're going to completely forget about that 4 bomb pack.
Oh, yes. So CeroX has also cleared out Mini Moldorm Cave, headed towards the east. I expect we'll see him do this same play here. Parisian player has opted not to save and quit, which suggests to me he's going to give us a fake flippers all the way up to Zora area.
Absolutely. This is usually a standard play with some runners. As long as you're 1 pixel away from the screen and you transition, you have enough time to where the game thinks you're swimming, like right there. And so you can go ahead and swim even though you don't have the flippers. You got to be careful though, because you can get locked if you get damaged by an enemy. In Randomizer, we just kill you, so you don't get locked.
Yeah, and we saw Parisian player head to the screen on the left to set this up. That's because if you slash the bush and walk at a diagonal, you can be fairly confident in your setup that you'll be exactly the right distance away from the screen transition. CeroX trying to set it up on his own, and unfortunately moving just a bit too close to the wall. But he'll get this in a second.
And the hobo just having 10 arrows, and Parisian player is going to save and quit from there.
CeroX using the bomb to brush right up against the screen transition, which lets him just be in the right spot to jump down. And narrowly dodges that fireball.
And instead of doing hobo, CeroX is going to head straight for the Waterfall of Wishing. Meanwhile, Parisian player is going to head over to...
Oh, no.
Oh! There's that insta-kill we were talking about.
All right, so both runners now headed to the eastern area.
Yep, let's see what Hostile has hiding in his closet. There's that power glove and a master sword and a piece of heart, so we got Dark World access.
And it looks like Parisian player is going to capitalize on that, not go dip into eastern just yet. And why would he when he can go straight into the Dark World, which I think he's about to do?
That certainly appears to be the case. So at this point, with that book that was on the Lumberjack Cave, you're really only going to need it if... you're really going to only need it for Desert Palace if we don't get the flute and the Titan's Mitts in the mirror, because you can go to Mire and then mirror your way into Desert. All right, map check. Blue pendant at Pod, 5 crystal at Ice. Everything else is a non-5/6 crystal. So interesting. Pod and Eastern are both pendants.
Yeah. That doesn't bode well for these runners finding the bow anytime soon. Parisian player unfortunately out of bombs, so he can't check the back half of Hype Cave. Fortunately, there's a shop just up here for him. Which he's going to pass on.
Yeah, I would imagine he's probably going to go visit Stumpy in the Haunted Grove and go try his luck at the digging game, and then maybe get bombs after that. But meanwhile, with CeroX, we can see what else is in Hype Cave. Stumpy just having a 5-bomb upgrade. We got 20 bucks, Quake Medallion, 5-bomb upgrade, and a heart container. So not much hype today.
I mean, Quake could come in handy in the future, but definitely not needed right now. And Parisian player heads west, opts not to go to the digging game, and saves and quits to Sanctuary as well.
See CeroX heading from Sanctuary, probably on his way to the portal over by Kakariko, get some access to Skullwoods and to Thieves Town.
And it looks like Parisian player's heading north. And since he's already checked Lumberjack Cave, he's going to pick up this rock and head through the dark room up the mountain.
Now, one thing we should note here, this is a sequence break. The way the randomizer works, there are modes where you can do it with glitches, but the logic, the no glitches mode that we are using assumes that you don't use glitches to get through. So, or going through dark rooms without the lamp. So everything that Parisian player is going to find here, the logic doesn't expect him to go up to Death Mountain just yet.
That's right. This is a sequence break, and usually it won't cause any problems with your play as long as you keep track of, what you've found up here and what's logically blocked off. For someone at Parisian player's level, I expect he'll be able to do that, but it does mean we're going to get some serious divergence from these two runners.
It certainly can help. You can with sequence breaking, it helps where you can see if the game there's the mirror in Skullwoods. If the game intends you to get something, it can help you deduce where things are. We got Bombos inside Spectacle Rock. So, like for example, in an earlier race, one of the runners went to Ice Palace via fake flipper, didn't find anything in there, so it was pretty well guaranteed that flippers were going to be pretty late in the logic, because if at that point you only had one place to go, and if the flippers were there, the logic wasn't going to put you at a place where flippers were going to lead to nothing.
That's right. Looks like Parisian picked up the Bombos medallion from inside Spectacle Rock and is going to save and quit out of there. We'll see. He's going to go to Sanctuary. Looks like he's headed to the Dark World, opting not to head to East Death Mountain at this time.
Not yet.
And while CeroX is kind of in the area, he's going to check on this graveyard ledge, which it looks like you shouldn't be able to get to without the Titan's Mitt or the boots, but he knows the way. He knows the winding path through that maze to get up to graveyard ledge and mirror, even without those upgrades.
And just $20 in the graveyard ledge.
So mirror is nice to have early. It makes a lot of the routing more efficient in the long term because they won't have to double back to so many places. But otherwise, nothing big coming out of this Dark World play yet. Parisian making up his mind as to whether he wants to do Skull Woods first. Looks like he's headed to the village, so he's going to be missing that mirror for the next little while.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't found much in the Dark World yet, but there's still plenty of places these runners can go. With having the hammer and having a sword, Thieves Town is fully clearable at this point. There's a mushroom in the C-shaped house, so, you know, we haven't found much yet, but there's still plenty more to go.
Oh, and CeroX checks the bombable hut in the south part of the village, gets the blue mail. This is going to give him a lot of an easier time when he heads through Thieves Town. Parisian player are going to be doing this dungeon with 6 hearts and green mail. It's very doable, but it is a bit taxing, and you do have to be on the ball with your execution to not take any nasty hits.
Yes. Both of these runners are experienced enough that I'm sure they can handle it. They also do have a couple of safeties, that red potion that got picked up, so if it was me running this, I'd have no chance. Parisian player, I hope he can handle it.
And you're right, in addition to that red potion, the first ball that they picked up did have a fairy in it, so in the event that they fall, they'll get right back up in place. First 4 chests in the dungeon, not really having anything for them. Let's see what happens in the back half.
You're guaranteed to get the big key. There's the 3 dungeon items, the map, the compass, and the big key. There is 1 key in a chest in Thieves Town, so the other 4 chests are going to have items.
And CeroX gets momentarily turned into a bunny. I'm not sure what that sprite was. but
That was
I'll bet it was something from Blizzard that I'm just not familiar with.
no. It's basically Valeria as a bunny because Valeria is in this game because reasons.
Interestingly, CeroX switching to the hammer at this point, right as he heads into the back half, probably thinking, hey, this thing does tempered sword damage. I might need to pull it out to take care of something like a Patrick Star or other thing in the way.
Good job dodging all that and not taking... That Hellway is... Well, we call it Hellway for a reason, and did very nice work dodging all the enemies there. Alright. 3 more locations here. The Maiden's Chest is next up. And the map. So the last 2 locations, the Big Chest and Blind himself, both will have items.
And CeroX has to be a bit careful here. He does have that fairy in a bottle, but I'm sure he doesn't want to use it right now, and he is down to 1 heart. Those grasshopper enemies in the hallway do 2 hearts each time, and it looks like he got bodied by them a bit.
Yeah, both runners are running pretty low on health. They both have the fairies, so they're not gonna fall if they die right now. But to your point, you want to save those safeties for later on. We get a high 5 there as both runners are heading through that staircase.
Fortunately, if you know what you're doing, Blind turns into one of the easier bosses in the game as it follows a pretty consistent pattern, an incredibly consistent pattern actually, if you move and bait it in just the right way. So we can see Parisian Player already through the second phase of this fight and knows that Blind's going to go left. There's 1, 2, and oh, not quite. Oh! Blind goes down at the last moment, and he does have to use that fairy.
But just 1 more hit, and down goes Blind. And we have Fisher Price, My First Shield of Blind, and the first crystal of the game at 28 minutes. CeroX is right behind Parisian Player into the Blind fight.
So Parisian gonna pick up that mushroom, head to the south part of the village, I expect, to get the blue mail as well. And, ooh, CeroX takes the fall to use that fairy. We'll see where these runners end up going at this point. If they're not interested in doing Death Mountain, then their options are narrowing, and we might be seeing Palace of Darkness play soon.
Well, Parisian Player has to go to Skullwoods to get the mirror. To your point, neither runner went into Eastern Palace. There could be items waiting there. Pod is in play. Everything here in Death Mountain is a sequence break. So at this point, there's still overworld checks you can do south of Village of Outcast, but well, actually just digging game. I forgot CeroX already did all that. So realistic, I kind of agree with you. I think it's Pod or Eastern that the seed is trying to point them towards.
Now, CeroX is going to do digging game here, and we saw Parisian save and quit before that, so who knows what this could have.
Just $20 in a floating island?
And Parisian's going to do Spiral Cave. Looks like he skipped Paradox Cave for the moment. Probably going to do that on his way back up. As CeroX just gets 10 arrows from the digging game.
Not really what he was looking to see. And just heart container and spiral cave.
Cave 45 with 20 rupees, not going to help CeroX.
Nope, not at all. Parisian player forgetting not having the mirror, he can't despawn the block there. It has to go the normal way into Paradox Cave.
Well, there's 7 chests here, as well as a heart refill. And, well, Titan's Mitt right off the bat.
Now we have to remember that is sequence broken. The sea does not expect you to have Titan's Mitts right now.
That's right, but it looks like CeroX is headed up to Death Mountain as well. So we might be seeing both our runners doing this same sequence break.
There's the lamp. Piece of heart.
Okay.
Cane of brine and a heart container.
That lamp find is going to be one of the more useful pieces of knowledge these players get. Because they sequence broke to get up here because they didn't have lamp. So that means they weren't supposed to use the lamp to get up here. They were supposed to use the flute to get up here. And that's going to vastly narrow down their search space for where the flute can actually be.
Exactly.
I think that'll give them a lot of insight into where to go looking next for things.
And since I apparently exploded Lemonster's RTA's head earlier with my explanation of how a sequence break can be useful, I'm very thankful for you providing that explanation to hopefully clear things up.
Anytime.
Parisian player's gonna head into Hera. This is full clearable.
Yeah, he is going to have a slightly slower time of this because he's going to be doing it without the map. Or, without the map as well, but mainly without the mirror.
Yes.
But from the looks of it, he may not have to do that basement area.
No. Getting that... You have to get the big key to get through the door in the next room. So, either find it in those first two locations, or you have to go down the other side of the basement, which involves having to do a tile room, and also a small key. So, to your point about using the mirror, you really would want that if you go down to the coffee break room, and then instead of having to walk all the way back, you use mirror back.
That's right. So looks like Parisian wasn't happy with that bomb jump setup. He's going to try it again. I think he's got it here. Just a piece of heart from that chest. We'll have to see if Moldorm has the other item, or if, in fact, they have to go to the basement to clear this out. And meanwhile, CeroX has cleared out Paradox Cave, headed over to Spiral Cave, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him do Super Bunny and Hookshot Cave while he's over here, since he's got that mirror and he can get back to the light world.
And Parisian player is into Trolldorm. 3 hammer strikes and Trolldorm goes down in a very clean fight from Parisian player.
So I was once told that the essential strategy to Moldorm is just to understand that the tail follows the head. And that's particularly useful when you're fighting with the hammer, because your hitbox is so strange. You need to be able to know where that tail's going, and looks like he pulled that off here.
Yes. However, He is leaving. He's choosing to leave without doing the coffee break. Although, it's possible he may have forgotten that that was a pendant dungeon, not a crystal dungeon.
You know, I think he's made that calculation. I expect he's looked at it and said, I don't want to spend 2 minutes just to get one item from a dungeon. I think he thinks he has better use of his time, and I mean, we'll see if that's correct, but for the time being, I'm inclined to agree with him.
That certainly makes sense. We have Flippers and Super Bunny Cave.
Now, interestingly, we're going to see a Turtle Rock check in a second here. And there's a chance that one or both runner can get into it. There's the silver arrows.
I certainly would like to see those for the Ganon fight.
Ooh, and a half magic upgrade. But, of course, these runners have two different sets of medallions. CeroX not having checked Spectacle Rock, Parisian Player not having checked Hype Cave. So it's Quake, and with the mirror and having finished Hype Cave, looks like CeroX is going to dip into Turtle Rock for a second.
Or at the very least, just open it up.
At this point, I'm tempted to say you go into Turtle Rock and you check it out. You don't have the fire rod, so there's potentially only just one chest you can look at. But we've seen something good in that chest enough times that I really wouldn't want to leave it.
Well, CeroX is gonna head in. To your point, we need 2 small keys to get through into the first base. Is it basement 1 or basement 2? Yeah, it's basement 1. So we need to find, basically the only way he can go on is if both this chest here and the one in the chain chomp room has small keys. And there's a small key there. So if it's not in the chain chomp room, then the logic would put it in the room locked by the fire rod, and at that point CeroX will just have to get out.
That's right. And, you know, given the, again, the sequence break they did to get up here, I wouldn't be surprised if the game expected them to have the fire rod at this point. But anything can happen.
Yeah, we're certainly going to need it, because with both Skullwoods, there's that second key I was talking about. Both Skullwoods and Turtle Rock are crystals, so the fire rod will be required to complete the game.
Meanwhile, over on Parisian's side, looks like he's headed up to Eastern Dark World. Could be a pyramid check, could be a dive into Palace of Darkness. Unfortunately, without the mirror, he won't be able to check both Pod and Eastern at the same time.
Right. So far, not having the mirror hasn't burned Parisian Player yet, but it very well could.
Oh, CeroX taking some heavy hits in this room. It's a nasty one.
And
a lot of these enemies do too much damage. Oh!
There's the flute on the pyramid ledge. So that's how the game expected you to get to Death Mountain.
That's one less thing to worry about. And it looks like CeroX is going to take that death, walk out of there rather than spend the time dipping all the way back. For his sake, I hope that works. Doesn't end up checking Tower of Hera, but as far as we know, there's no value in there right now.
There still is one item location in the basement. But it is very out of the way, considering it is a pendant dungeon.
Now, rather than go to Pod, Parisian's headed all the way up to the Quake medallion area, the catfish. This is an area that in previous versions kind of no one liked, but seems to have gotten a lot better in version 29, at least anecdotally.
Well, I don't like your anecdotes. It's just triple bombs.
The plural of anecdote, ladies and gentlemen, is not data.
Alright, CeroX having died doing fake flipper. Now that he has a real flippers, is gonna be heading back to the Waterfall of Wishing from here. Parisian player gonna activate that flute.
And CeroX almost goes to enter Ice Palace and then realizes, hang on, I don't have the Fire Rod, I don't have Bombos, I can't do anything other than walk in the front door. You know, now that we see that Bombos in Spectacle Rock, this seed is really opening up a lot of options for the runners.
Yep. Blue potion in the Waterfall of Wishing.
I mean, at the moment, they're able to get into the Mire area, which Parisian's doing. That gives them access to Desert Palace. They can enter Ice Palace with Bombos. They really, at this point, are just needing those Fire and Ice Rods and the bow at some point.
Yeah. In terms of go mode, I mean, that's realistically all we have left is both rods and the bow.
But of course, we have that disparity where CeroX has the mirror from Skull Woods, as Zora gives him just 20 rupees. And Parisian player has the flute from the pyramid, but no mirror. And so, you know, depending on how these runners follow the items they do have, it could take a while before they end up finding that other item and being able to complete everything. So we might see very different routes for the next while.
And one thing we should also point out is, for those that may have just joined us, what is on Lumberjack Cave is the Book of Medora. So right now, logically, once you put those different items together, you can get to Desert Palace, and you don't need the book to do that. So all that's really left of the book being a necessity, therefore Aga being required, is if something for progression is on either the Bombos tablet or the Ether tablet.
And you know what? I like our runners, based on what I've seen of them so far. I sincerely hope that that doesn't happen, particularly because I think if that is the case, it'll be one of the last things they ever want to check.
It is, let's put it this way, I hope for the runner's sake that that is not the case either. It is still a possibility, albeit a small one.
But Parisian player, of course, has access to Misery Mire, so he's made his way into there. And at this point, you know, he's got Lamp, he's got Cane of Samaria, he's able to clear it out fully. I think he's going to do that here, getting 2 items in the process. CeroX, meanwhile, looks like he's headed over to Eastern.
But first, gonna make way to the portal south of Eastern. Now imagine with that mirror will combo Eastern Palace, and I just made a fool of myself and just went the long way.
I liked your idea. I thought it was smart.
To finish the thought, you basically use the portal, then when you get to the entrance of Palace of Darkness, you can then mirror and do both dungeons, one right after the other. But independent Eastern we go.
You know, it takes a long time to get into Palace of Darkness. There's a lot of walking you have to do through that maze, especially when you don't have boots. If CeroX is expecting that he's going to find a progression item here that would open up more of the game for him, then I think there's a lot of value in not doing the walk to pod when you can potentially get something out of Eastern.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is with the logic, these first few chests in Eastern Palace are in Sphere 1, where you don't need anything to do these checks, so it's entirely possible that something of value is here. We also want to give a shout out to Not2420 for the second month in a row of a Twitch Prime sub. Thank you to your support.
Thanks for keeping the lights on at Speed Gaming. Alright, so Parisian Player has moved the wall in the long cutscene in Mire. I don't think he's found any items beyond small keys and dungeon items so far. And there's a big key on the left side, and he's probably going to have to go right side and all the way to Vitreous for his 2 items.
And it looks like CeroX didn't find anything, and I'm guessing he didn't find the big key. So instead of going through the dark room, CeroX just decided to nope on out.
Yeah, I think that's a case, like we were talking about earlier, where he knows that lamp is a sequence break. He hasn't seen the flute yet, so he's assuming, hey, there's probably nothing good back there. And you know what? It's a really long trek just to get that big key and open one more chest. In that situation, I wouldn't want to do it either.
It certainly makes sense. Because again, to the thing we've kind of been going back to, it's if you choose to sequence break, these are the ways you use it. You use it to figure out, okay, I found the lamp, so the flute was how I was expected to get to Death Mountain. So the flute certainly isn't going to be in that dark room or in the big chest.
Speaking of the flute, looks like CeroX is going to go pick it up here. But Parisian Player found the Tempered Sword in the right side of Misery Mire. I'm sure that's a huge relief for him as he's making his way to Vitreous, whose strategy changes entirely if you can enter that fight with Master Sword. Or sorry, Tempered Sword.
Absolutely. Usually you want the bow for Vitreous, but Tempered Sword will certainly help. CeroX does pick up that flute.
Notice how he switches to the mirror there so we can go straight to the entrance of the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sanctuary is a dungeon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, to honor Hyrule, we ask that you join us in the playing of the national Swag Duck Anthem.
That's always nice to hear. Oh, nice Burnastrat from Parisian Player to get through there, and it looks like he's just going to use Burna and stand in amongst the eyes, slashing at them. Unfortunately, and I don't know if this is by design or not, you can't spin attack with Burna spinning around you.
No, you cannot. Slashing, and all of the frame rate lag from doing all of that will certainly slow down the magic, and he's able to get all the eyeballs down without taking any damage. Now just has to play tennis with the big eyeball.
CeroX has entered the same area. Gonna check out that Desert Ledge item. Find it's just a bomb upgrade, but we're gonna see him head into Desert, and depending on what's on that torch, if he doesn't need boots, he can clear this out right now.
And speaking of boots, they're on Vitreous.
What are those doing there? We might need them for Desert.
No, you won't. The compass is on the torch.
Oh, I'm happy to see that.
right, we got a small key for desert. That'll open up the right side. Big key will have to be one of the two chests on the right side.
And Parisian's going to take those boots, check out the bonk rocks here, probably check the King's Tomb while he's in the area. Clean up those two locations quickly.
Got 5 bomb upgrade in desert, so this big key is going to be in his vanilla location.
Just a piece of heart from the bonk rocks, and looks like Parisian's going to flute away from here right now as CeroX heads to the back of Desert Palace. He can access Desert Palace because he's got the mirror. That mirror is hiding in the front part of Skull Woods, and Parisian player just hasn't dipped in there yet. Hasn't burned him yet, but we might be hitting the point where not being able to check those locations starts hurting.
Yeah, they're gonna be even at 2 dungeons completed once CeroX finishes desert, but I imagine CeroX will then go back in the portal and go right to Mire.
That's right. He'll go straight to Mire and probably do Checkerboard Cave right after. And Checkerboard Cave is one of those places. The first time you go by it, if you have the mirror, everything's great. You get that place checked out and all's happy. But if you don't have the mirror at the time, suddenly it becomes a huge pain to try to route it in somehow. And if it has something good, you can go a long time before you see it.
Parisian player gonna get the life lesson from Zora today.
And CeroX using some Master Sword spins to do temper damage to these Landmos. Still an RNG heavy fight, still a lot of work to get through, but beats doing it with Fighter's Sword.
And there you go. A map and a crystal for your troubles.
And looks like Parisian player's headed back to the Dark World here. We might now see him check on Skull Woods. And if that's the case, he'll be getting that mirror right now.
Superb 1980 asking if this is the last match of the night. We have one more starting right now as we speak, and then that'll be it for tonight. And then we start right back up at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
That's right, and oh no, Parisian player going to pick up the Smith means he's not going to get the mirror at this time. Means he's going to have to save and quit to turn in that Smith. Just ends up being a very difficult route that he's ended up taking here. Fortunately, he's got that flute. As CeroX dips back into Desert Palace, finds the other item, but it's just a piece of heart.
And then, as expected, CeroX heads into Mire.
Blacksmiths with just a piece of heart today, but that bumps Parisian player up to 11 hearts. He's going to take that flute and head back to the village.
Just a big 20 in Checkerboard Cave. Now will we see a Skullwoods play? No, we will not.
Perhaps a purple chest play from Parisian.
I mean, at these times, it's apt to note that this isn't necessarily a bad play by Parisian player. You know, he doesn't know that we know where the mirror is. It's just going to, in some ways, be ironic that the mirror is just right north of him, but, you know, he doesn't know that.
That's right. And in particular, it just hurts here because these are the fetch quests you want to have the mirror for. Looks like CeroX opted for a save and quit and is going to turn in his mushroom rather than doing Mire when he was in the area. So Parisian player is going to keep that crystal lead for now. And fortunately for him, along with that, he's going to keep the tempered sword advantage. Oh, Parisian, you have a follower with you. The digging game guy is not going to let you play the game.
Nope. Even if you have it stay there, not going to work. So it looks like CeroX turned in the mushroom, bought some potions, and now we'll be making that play to Mire.
You know, when you're going into Mire and you don't know you're going to find tempered in there, bottling up some potions first, probably a wise play, especially when you've got as much money as these two have been given so far.
Exactly. I mean, CeroX has already paid off Zora. You really just you may need the money to pay off Kiki the Extortionist, but other than that, all that money you can use for potions.
And that purple chest just has a red shield for Parisian player today. Unfortunately, that time on fetch quests not working out for him. Is he going straight into Ice Palace at this point?
That certainly looks like it. I mean, it is full clearable. He has the Bombos medallion.
Bombos, hookshot, hammer. Yeah, this is completely doable, and certainly nothing wrong with going in here. Heck, with Blue Mail and Tempered Sword, it's even bordering on easy as a completion option. So Ice Palace going to have 3 items in here. First one in this room. And of course a crystal at the end, which makes the whole thing worthwhile. Meanwhile, CeroX is going to be spending a long time checking Mire. I expect Tempered Sword will be the last chest on the right side he checks.
We're seeing a heart container in Ice Palace. There's 8 total item locations. And with 2 small keys, that means we have 3 potential items in this standard mode. So 2 left.
So, you know, we're coming up on an hour into this seed. And I look at the items these runners have and what's left, and it's actually pretty mean to them, is what I'm starting to think. We do know where that mirror is for Parisian. It's in Skull Woods. But Fire Rod, Ice Rod, Bow, these are items that, at this point, don't block many things. And we've got pretty much the whole game open to the runners at this point.
Yeah, we certainly got a lot of items to start, and then as the seed likes to do sometimes, it gives you a lot of items thinking you're gonna get through this race pretty fast, and then ho, do I have some trolls in store for you.
Yeah, it's really that paradox of choice where you have so many options that nothing becomes a good option, and it's all about trying to knock off as many things in close succession as possible. A Parisian player going to use Bombos here without the Fire Rod, but I'm really starting to wonder, where is that Fire Rod? Where's that Ice Rod?
Well, there's a cape there in Ice Palace, so let's start deducing it. So we've been to Mire's done, Thieves Town's done, Skullwoods, We found the mirror. I don't know if we found the other item location in Skullwoods.
I believe it's back.
Okay, it's in the back. Okay, so it's blocked by the fire rod. So, Ice Palace, you have one item left. Swamp Palace is full clearable at this point, so that is certainly a crystal dungeon they could visit next. And then from there, realistically, if it's not in Swamp Palace, you gotta start imagining it might be in Pod.
That's all correct, and I think there's a strong waiting for Pod. What's eating away at me right now is, you remember CeroX went into Turtle Rock. He took that death, so he never made it to the vanilla big key chest, which potentially had the big key. He never made it to Mimic Cave. There's a whole host of options there that are really unattractive for both runners at this point because they're so far away.
We won't know until we find the bow and the fire and ice rod. All right, we're still missing one item in Ice Palace. And we've got 2 locations left to check.
CeroX down to 4 hearts here, but at least he's picked up his Tempered Sword. I'm curious which strat he's going to pull out on Vitreous.
Well, they haven't gotten the big key yet. No wonder they didn't check the big chest.
Yeah, that's got to be in the iced tea room at this point. So Parisian's going to have to drop down, do the big loop around, go back upstairs, and then drop down another hole just to get to the big chest. And see if that even has another item.
You know what chat just brought up? The bow is only required for GT because Pod and Eastern are crystals.
I know.
Or Pod and Eastern are pendants, sorry. CeroX just gonna do straight up sword slashes.
I like this. The conventional route here, or strat here in an MG, is to damage boost off of the goop on the floor so that you're only taking 1 heart at a time, and do spin attacks. CeroX just swings with his sword, doesn't get hit by any eyes, doesn't even get hit by the lightning through some sheer miracle. And now he's able to just take the main eyeball out with some sword slashes. Not the conventional strategy, but I'd say this worked for him.
All right, that last item is going to be on Cold Stare. I imagine I'm starting to think we're starting to get to that point where Parisian player not having the mirror is going to start hurting him a bit.
I think that's correct.
But Parisian player is going to drop down into Cold Stare.
And CeroX is going to show us King's Tomb, which we haven't seen before. There's the Fire Rod.
All right.
Parisian doesn't get the puffs up into the corner, but still manages to take them all out. Tempered Sword, of course, does incredible work on this boss. And that last item, just a piece of heart.
All right, so now at this point, if you're pulling for Parisian player, you're hoping he gets the King's Tomb to get that Fire Rod, and then use that knowledge to go to Swamp House. And actually, I totally forgot when I was saying earlier that, hey, Swamp House is in play. No, it's not for Parisian player. He still doesn't have the mirror.
Yeah, that's a problem. Looks like CeroX is going to do the kind of the obvious immediate thing to do when you get the Fire Rod, which is go finish Skull Woods. get that second item if it's in the back half, and we'll see where he goes after that. Having the Fire Rod, of course, makes doing Ice Palace faster, so we may see CeroX take that same play next. Looks like Parisian's headed to the Dark World.
And
he's making the play.
There it is.
So at this point, both runners with 3 dungeons completed. CeroX having completed Desert and needing to do Ice, which does take more time to complete. But CeroX having that Fire Rod is going to finish another dungeon here, and that, I think, is going to give him a serious leg up.
And actually, Parisian player gets that mirror and immediately nopes on out.
Looks like he's going straight to the Dark World, perhaps to go for Swamp Palace immediately. I think he knows as soon as he sees that mirror that, hang on, I was supposed to have this for a while. I should start putting this to some direct use.
Yep, and he's making a beeline for Swamp Palace.
CeroX going to take on this Moth. Just needs 4 hits with the Tempered Sword, but needs to not knock the Moth into the spike on any hits. Looks like he's doing pretty quick work here. Oh, but Moth hanging around the edges too much. There we go.
There we go. And a map for your troubles. So I imagine he'll be heading back in to check that last chest.
He's
Or
starting
not.
to think we miscounted our items in Swamp, or in Skull Woods, and he's probably got the 2 already.
Alright, just a big 20 to lead us off in Swamp Palace.
And CeroX has said, hang on, I can full clear Swamp right now. I guess that's what I better be doing. So Parisian player going to be ahead throughout this dungeon.
Yep, CeroX is going to be right behind Parisian player.
And just a reminder that we do know that book is in the Lumberjack Cave. Runners having no other reason to be egging him unless they need to get something off of one of the tablets. It's my sincere hope that they don't have to do that, but we'll see what they can come up with outside of that.
It was just 10 bombs in the south chest in Swamp Palace. So basically at this point, we need the Ice Rod to get through all 7 dungeons, crystal dungeons. We are going to need the bow for GT. But the bow could be in GT, so... But in terms of go mode, we need Ice Rod and we need a bow.
That's right, and Parisian still needs that Fire Rod from the King's Tomb, which, I'll be honest, I'm starting to get a little worried about. We saw him check Bonk Rocks immediately after getting his boots, and he didn't check King's Tomb at that time. I'm very much hoping it's still in the back of his mind somewhere. chat, of course, asking the perennial question, what is go mode?
Go mode is where you have all the items to finish the game, and at that point, you just have to go to a dungeon, find the big key, big key, and then go beat down the boss. You don't have to search any chests, you just gotta go, go, go. We got butter in one of the chests on the left side of Swamp.
Yeah, those left side chests of Swamp being a perfect example of things you never see when runners are in go mode because they're going straight to the end of the dungeon, not checking every single chest they can. CeroX, it looks like, is going to skip the left side, not pick up that butter sword at this time, and go straight on to Argus. We might see him head back through after he finishes the dungeon.
Still haven't found the big key yet. Which in Swamp Palace, you only need the big key to open the big chest. There is no big key door in Swamp.
That's right, and so at this point, it could be on Argus, or it could be locked inside the big chest itself, in which case it's inaccessible, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's one of those new things in version 29 that I've been getting tripped up as I've been commentating, is not realizing that if a key is only necessary to get to one place, the logic will actually allow it to be locked in so you can't get to it.
Alright, so both runners in Argus at the same time here. CeroX takes out that second phase. Parisian player very close behind. Looks like Parisian for a bit was doing that hook dash strat, where you can actually have your sword poking out, so it takes out those puffs as soon as they hit you.
And down goes Argus for both runners. CeroX is heading back in.
Yeah, he's been keeping count of his items. He knows where that big key is. It's either on the left side or it's in the chest, and he knows that there's still 2 more items to get. So he'll have to backtrack a bit here, but he will get that level 4 sword.
Alright. Well, Parisian Man, it's late. Parisian player has fixed the one mistake of the mirror in Skullwoods, and I imagine is now heading back to the Mire area to go take care of Desert. But after that, he needs to go to King's Tomb and get the fire rod to finish off Skullwoods. We still need the ice rod, which could be in Turtle Rock, or it could be in Pod, or Eastern. Ice rod can pretty much be anywhere that is not Ganon's Tower. But as we're kind of retreading over places, please be sure to give both Parisian Player and CeroX a follow. On Twitch, they've been doing a great job, and we love seeing the action that they've been providing for us.
Now, the other thing about what Parisian Player is doing right now, he's clearing out Desert. He's already cleared out Ice Palace. So we might be seeing Crystal's 5/6 Pyramid Fairy check from him as soon as he finishes up here.
And certainly both the bow or the ice rod could be there.
As CeroX gets that golden, or as we like to say, butter sword.
Gets that piece of heart. And time to peace out.
So I wouldn't be surprised right now to see CeroX head over to Ice Palace. He's going to have to full clear it at this point, but he knows he can clear it all, and certainly it's got a crystal he's looking for. Turtle Rock, a lot less attractive when you don't have the Ice Rod and can't finish it.
Yeah, at this point, once Parisian Player finishes Desert, they'll be tied up at 5, but Parisian Player won't be able to get the 6 until he gets the Fire Rod and King's Tomb. Draconis345 asking if Eastern Palace has been dipped. It has. We haven't seen. We haven't gone past the dark rooms yet.
That's right. We saw the first chest get checked. We saw no big key show up before the big chest. And so we know it's in its vanilla location, and we have no idea what's in that big chest.
And part of the reason for that was the lamp was on top of Death Mountain, and both runners' sequence broke to get up there, and that was because the logic intended you get the flute. So when CeroX went into Eastern Palace, once he got to the point where it was obvious that the lamp was going to be required, he was still sequence broken at that point and hadn't picked up the flute, so that's why he pieced out.
Now, of course, for all we know, Bo could be in that big chest in its vanilla location, which is always nasty. And again, worth mentioning, neither runner has had a chance to dip into the Palace of Darkness with everything else that's been going for them. So, too many things to really make an accurate guess at this point.
We should also remind anybody who might be joining us that also the book is on the Lumberjack Cave. And so at this point, we are hoping these runners do not need that book to check Bombos or Ether Tablet, but, well, either the bow or the Ice Rod can certainly be either on either of those tablets, and that's why we have to keep reminding you of this.
Parisian Player checks Agina's cave, gets that $20, and has to nope out of there as well. You know, there's another location neither runner has checked. CeroX just found the cape, and of course neither runner has been over to Spike Cave yet. Long ways out of the way, huge drain on your magic. Not always an efficient play, but sometimes you gotta do it.
Certainly is possible. I imagine, however, Parisian Player is first going to go turn in that big bomb and see what's in the Fat Fairy inside the pyramid.
And there's just a couple more locations Parisian Player hasn't checked. He hasn't checked the Graveyard Ledge. He hasn't checked Cave 45, south of the Haunted Grove. Those he's been unable to do because he didn't get that mirror till later. So as this seed goes on and the runners go longer without finding those last 3 items, we could see Parisian Player lose a bit of time as he has to retrace some of his steps to get those locations with mirror.
Now, hopefully knowing that there's Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb for Parisian Player, there's the bow.
Well, That's one less thing to worry about.
So we won't have to find a bow in Ganon's tower. We know the bow is there.
On the one hand, that's absolutely fantastic to find for these runners so that they don't have to go looking for it in GT. On the other hand, it just made Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace both completable, widening the area they have to search for that ice rod. And in Parisian players' case, the area to search for getting the fire rod.
Yep. Because the difference here, so hypothetically speaking for the moment, let's assume that CeroX goes and does Fat Fairy next. It's not possible, but for sake of argument. CeroX finds the ice rod in pod, for example. CeroX is officially in go mode, and he just has to go straight to Helmasar. Parisian player finds ice rod in pod. Parisian player still has to find the fire rod and is going to keep doing checks.
That's right. And CeroX is going to head into the Cold Star fight here with the level 4 Butter Sword. This is going to be a very quick fight.
Yes, indeed. You got half magic bombos and fire rod. All the tools at your disposal with Butter Sword. And CeroX managing to put Cold Stare in a corner for a little bit. And just makes quick work of those eyeballs.
There we go. So that'll be a total of 6 crystals so far for CeroX. Just one more from Turtle Rock, where he needs that ice rod. As Parisian players making his way through Palace of Darkness in the front area, so far, finding a lot of keys. But CeroX is not immediately going to that Pyramid Fairy. Where is he going at this point? Has he done Smiths in Purple Chest?
Nope.
We might be seeing that.
Yep, that dip south is exactly where that's going.
So this may allow Parisian player to get some time back, but it's still going to come down to when does he go to King's Tomb for that fire rod? And of course, that question I can't stop asking. Where the heck is the ice rod?
Won't know until we see it, unfortunately. Parisian player has done all these checks with Jeremiah, Peg Cave, and the lunchbox, so we know this is going to be fruitless.
That's right. And just to clear up some confusion for the chat, yes, at the moment, the tracker is not being updated. Our lovely tracker, Epic Ranger, is working on the fix to get that updated as soon as possible. So sit tight, and for the moment, just remember Parisian players got that bow, and CeroX has cleared out Ice Palace.
Yep, we will keep you up to date.
Parisian player using the Hammer Yump to get into the Dark Maze from the back end. There's the Ice Rod in the Dark Maze at the bottom.
Alright, But again, to the earlier point, Parisian player is still going to keep checking places because he doesn't have the fire rod. And I imagine this is the Fat Fairy check for CeroX. And hopefully that leads him to Pod. And once he finds the ice rod, he can just nope right to Helmasaur.
It's certainly starting to look that way. He won't even have to clear Helmasaur. If he pulls the bow and then the ice rod, that'll be go mode for him.
All right. That whole thing about Pod being a pendant.
So no, we're not in go mode yet, but soon.
We like to call this no mode. We as the commentators in chat know where everything is for go mode. The runners don't.
So Parisian player has cleared out all of the chests so far in Palace of Darkness, is going to head straight through to the back to Helmasaur right now. Again, it'll be one of those fights that goes by so quickly with the level of gear he's got. There's the bow for CeroX.
Yep, having silver arrows and butter sword. Once you get that mask off Helmasaur, it's a very quick fight.
Oh no, and CeroX going up maybe to check Catfish before diving into the eastern area. You know, I think we're inclined to think CeroX had the advantage because that bow would lead him to Palace of Darkness, but the longer he delays before going there, if Parisian player ends up getting that fire rod, this is still a very close race.
Okay. It's never good to assume, but I have to assume that this was just a check while you're already there at the pyramid, and that this flute pullout is probably to go back to 5 to go to Pod.
I expect so. And it's certainly looking that way from the map screen.
He's certainly thinking about it, though.
He's got me wondering now what's going on in his head, but it looks like he's going there.
Yep. And unfortunately for Parisian player, we know the fire rod's in King's Tomb, so didn't find anything on Helmasaur. We can also officially say at this point that that book that was Agalocked will not be needed this seed. But Parisian player is now going to go finish Eastern. It's a significant. The more he does not go to King's Tomb, the further behind he's going to fall.
That's right. At this point, I'm starting to think Parisian player might be gambling on this being a pedestal required seed, and based on the lack of other stuff he's seen, not wanting to go into Turtle Rock without having the fire rod, I think clearing this out is actually not a bad idea with that information. Certainly, steering hard into the pedestal when it's required can give you a competitive advantage. We just know in this case that's not going to work out.
Yeah, again, it's a thing of, it's not a bad play, it just happens to be the wrong play.
Alright, CeroX collected keys from the front of this dungeon. Pretty soon gonna head back into the right part of this dungeon, and then eventually to the backside with that ice rod. Parisian player making his way through the Eastern Dark Rooms. He's gonna show us what's hiding in that big chest that we didn't see before.
Yes, we pretty much know that the big key is going to be in its vanilla location. So it's just a matter of what's in the big chest and what's on Armos Knights. Alright. Just 5 rupees.
And CeroX is going to be headed to the back of Palace of Darkness right now. Let's see if he ends up doing the same hammer yump that we saw before. Looks like he's not going to go for it.
Nope.
He paused in the exact spot where most runners start pausing, and I thought for a second.
Alright, Parisian player gonna make quick work of those Armos Knights with those silver arrows. And gets a 10 arrow upgrade for his troubles and the green pendant.
Congratulations on using the arrows to beat this boss. As a result, you can carry more arrows, even though you have 33 silvers and won't need more than that. And CeroX has picked up the ice rod, slashing at that chest. He is now in go mode, but maybe is a little tense at this point. 90 minutes in. Might be starting to think, hang on. I didn't need to full clear those 2 long dungeons. I hope I'm not too far behind.
Yep. He officially was in go mode at 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 48 seconds. So just gotta go take on Trinex and then head right to Ganon's tower.
So, at this point, I do wonder if he knows that he's in the lead, or if he's getting a bit worried that, hang on, I had to full clear ice, I had to full clear swamp. How much time did that cost me? Fortunately, I think almost anyone who routes this seed in any way ends up full clearing Ice Palace, because that's required to get at the bow.
Yep.
And so if that crosses his mind, he may feel a bit more confident about his options here.
Yeah, he certainly has a leg up on Parisian player at this point. I mean, this just demonstrates how sometimes with Randomizer, it's not necessarily like you did anything wrong. It's just that you did the wrong check that just happened this time to not pay off. But the next time around, it could be that same play could be what wins or loses the race for you.
Yeah, it's always unfortunate when kind of the one spot you mischecking ends up being the spot that had the required item. And that does seem to be what's happened to Parisian here. He is going to pull this pedestal, so we'll get to see whatever goodness is on here.
A bloomerang, a master bloomerang.
Well, that is, many would say, better than picking up that red boomerang that's full of lag. And he is headed back to the Dark World. There are, those few overworld locations he hasn't checked. I'm thinking the cave south of the Haunted Grove. I'm thinking the Graveyard Ledge. We might see Parisian Player end up doing those and find King's Tomb along the way, but it looks like he might be headed back into Skull Woods, trying to find a second item.
And there it was just a heart container. You found the mirror on the left side of the big chest, and there was a heart container on the right side. All right, this may finally be the king. So he's gonna check Bumper Cave. You hope he just keeps going east and heads right for King's Tomb. Excuse me.
CeroX looks like he's thinking for a second. Can he risk skipping the big chest? No, he's not going to take that chance today. He's going to go around and get it just in case it's a small key.
Yeah, with opening up the path to the vanilla big key chest, you need all 4. And it was a small key.
Parisian Player checks the Graveyard Ledge, sees it's nothing. Here's the check on the King's Tomb here. This is where he's going to find out that the fire rod was missing.
There's that fire rod.
So at this point, it does look like he knows he's behind in this race. He knows he's got some catching up to do. By the time he finishes Skull Woods here, CeroX is going to be about finished with Turtle Rock. And so with a complete Turtle Rock play to do, that'll put him, for the most part, out of contention for this race, unfortunately.
Yeah, that... Not having that mirror for the longest time hurt CeroX, hurt Parisian Player to start, and that, unfortunately, waiting so long for that fire rod's gonna do him in. But Parisian Player is heading right into the back of Skullwoods. I imagine he knows he's in go mode at this point. And CeroX is in to take on Trinex.
I mean, this is a fast and fairly easy fight, even with Tempered Sword. With Golden Sword, this just ends so quickly. 3 hits to each head. I think a double spin to the main head with the Golden Sword is going to do this. This is just a nice way to start cleaning up. There we go.
Very clean fight.
But Parisian's over on Moth, cleaning up here. Moth, of course, has that weird quirk where the Gold Sword doesn't normally do damage, so, for the purposes of Randomizer, your Gold Sword acts like a Tempered Sword in this room, still takes those 4 slashes. Parisian gets the Moth down. That's 6 crystals for him, but CeroX has collected 7 crystals. And Jex, you know what that means.
It means that we like to play a little game because there are 22 chests in the basement of Ganon's tower. One of those contains the big key that gets CeroX up to the gauntlet. Please put in your guesses between 1 and 22 as to where you think that GT big key is. Philion, my friend, where do you think it is?
Well, the very first race I ever watched back in May of last year had it in Bob's chest, so that's where I always guess, because I'm sure it's always in Bob's chest. Worth noting, in the past we have had a little robot that collects guesses. It is not operating at this point, but we'll have it up in the next few days. Oh! And there's, in fact, perhaps Fiesel in chat contradicting me.
I know, because I saw it earlier in a race I commentated on Speed Gaming 5. Number 1, we got a small key on the torch. All right, next.
Did CeroX skip right side?
Yeah, he skipped right side. Number 2, heart container. Number 3, shovel. Number 4,
the presence of that shovel makes me so glad that they've found the bow already.
Yes. Number 5, $50.
Oh, looks like we're going to see some Dark Magician strat from CeroX, where you do the right or the left side, do this Telphos room, and then do the full right side clear. Something that I haven't actually seen in a race in quite some time.
All right, real quick, number 6 was $20, and number 7 was a small key. What is this Dark Magician strat?
I believe it's a strategy, a route throughout the tower, coined by someone named Dark Magician, one of the admins for this tournament. And the basic idea was to start with the Stalfos chests and then do the right side. You get to Ice Armos a bit faster, but it means that Rando Room is the last room you end up checking. And so if the GT Big Key is there or somewhere else on the left side, often you can end up falling behind there.
I see. All right, number 8, piece of heart. Number 9, there it is.
Was that number 9?
That was number 9.
If you guessed number 9, you have won the Ganon's Tower Big Key guessing game tonight, and you have won the prize of winning the Ganon's Tower Big Key guessing game tonight.
All right, with that, CeroX is gonna head up to Aga 2 and then go fight Ganon.
Yeah, silver arrows and gold sword are going to make this run very easy at the end. Those mimic rooms going down slightly faster when you only have the one thing to worry about. Not having to land 2 arrows. And it looks like we do have that bot working. No one guessed 9, but Medieval 1, you were the closest with a guess of 8. So, congratulations.
And at 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 45 seconds, CeroX officially enters the gauntlet. At this point, all the randomization is done. It comes down to execution.
Yeah, some of these little horse enemies giving CeroX the runaround quite literally throughout the room. When they get on those conveyors, they can really evade you. But he's making good progress. He's down to the last room of trouble. Gets a nice dash off on the skeleton.
And from here, CeroX will be into Lambo 2.
Parisian player, meanwhile, making his way through Turtle Rock. He's going to have to be careful here. He's down to half a heart, and there we are, switching to that red potion.
One thing we didn't mention earlier was that I believe the powder was on Trinex. So getting that this late, CeroX is going to be able to get fairies before, or get some fairies as he's making his way up.
It's always a nice thing to come across. I think these runners have some safeties anyways, but you're never going to turn down the opportunity to powder there.
Certainly. And here's where you see like execution from these runners in terms of using the Cane of Samaria to just wail at those skull staphos, or skull wizrobes, sorry.
When I was a kid, I used ether. I do the gauntlet so much faster now.
When I was a kid, I did what the guy told me to do and used the bomb on Helmassar. Now I use the hammer.
Oh, Parisian getting the nice route through that crystal roller room, using those sword beams so he doesn't have to bother with Cane of Samaria blocks, making it through before the roller gets him. Unfortunately, at this point, not quite going to be enough. CeroX has reached the top of Ganon's tower and is going to be heading into Muldorm 2 right away.
And CeroX going to use that powder to get his health refilled. CeroX into Troll Arm 2, just 2 butter slashes and down he'll go. Very quickly done. Moldorm's last possession with a heart container.
17 hearts CeroX has picked up during this seed. That's a pretty impressive total, but, you know, not actually surprising given how much of the seed these two runners covered.
Yes. Very interesting from Parisian player using the 0 cycle strat to get those turtle heads down before they even come out of the shell. Got a double hit from CeroX on Aga 2, and there's 2 more there. That should be 5. And there we go.
6.
And the Ganon appears.
So Parisian player has taken out Trinex, got that 7th crystal, got the powder if that was indeed the drop from Trinex, and is going to make his way into Ganon's tower. We'll see if he goes left side or right side, but at this point, looks like it doesn't matter, as CeroX is going to take on Ganon, who today is going to ask us some philosophy about lights in the fridge.
I mean, it is an important question.
And Parisian, or CeroX with that gold sword, only needs 6 hits per cycle of Ganon to be able to take him out. This just goes by so quickly. That cape making him immune to anything the fire bats can do. This turns into a very easy fight with this level of gear.
Yep, he's already into phase 3. Still has to be judicious with that cape because you don't want to accidentally burn all your magic that you need for the torches. One thing that got lost in that CeroX run of Ganon's Tower, there wasn't a key on the right side. You had to do left first.
Interesting.
Or actually, maybe there was, because I see 3 in his count.
CeroX has that torch glitch going for a double hit there. 1 more hit needed on Ganon. Looks like he's got that there. He's going to wrap this up.
Very nicely done. CeroX just has to walk into that door, and we have an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 42 seconds. Spam those GGs in chat.
So well played by CeroX to come out on top there. Parisian player making his way through GT still may finish in under 2 hours, which, given the setback he had with that fire rod, is still quite impressive. We're going to see if we can get CeroX in here to chat for a couple minutes. Meanwhile, Parisian player going to check on that rando room, which we call it because outside of Randomizer, you never should end up in this room. It's just got a map, an arrow upgrade, $20, and another arrow upgrade.
CeroX will join us. He just requests a couple minutes, and then he will be joining us in chat. It's a very interesting seed overall. It was certainly kind of trolled at the end, even with the rate of items that we got as it unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, in particular, that ice rod was available to both runners for so long, but again, with the loadouts they had, there was never really a point it made sense to start dipping into pod when you could full clear other crystal dungeons. So I'm not surprised it took that long to come across it. In the end, I'm just happy the boat didn't end up in Ganon's tower.
Yes, especially as you said with that shovel. There certainly could have been a troll of the shovel leading to the Well, while we're waiting, as we were saying at the start of this raid, we have a whole lot of more randomizer coming tomorrow. We start bright and early at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Be sure to keep tuned into all the different speed gaming channels. We have a whole bunch of races to get through and a lot of action to unfold as this tournament is just getting started.
That's right. Match is starting as early as 10 a.m. tomorrow on Speed Gaming, 10:45 on Speed Gaming 2, and then throughout the day on Speed Gaming 1 through 6, and of course ALTTP Randomizer 1 through 4, because we have so many matches in this tournament, and we're trying to bring you as many as possible.
Yeah, there's so many races we can't possibly get them all restreamed, but we have a whole bunch of racers, and they're props to all of them for being in this tournament. And joining us in chat is CeroX. GG.
GG.
And congratulations on that. 149.43 it looks like is your time. You had a few slashes come out when you found that ice rod for go mode. When you came across that, where did you think you were in the race?
To be honest, I thought it was somewhere in Turtle Rock, and I could have found it with my first stupid dip into TR earlier in the seed, and I just vanished now.
I mean, that death inadvertently kind of paid off, because otherwise, I get the feeling you would have probably gone all the way to Laser Bridge and
yeah, I believe so
find
too.
it.
Yeah, that's absolutely possible. Actually, this was a really, really helpful death there.
I mean, no death is a helpful death. I'm trying to paint a bright picture for you.
Well, yeah, I think I played really sloppy. It's quite early in the morning. I'm really tired still, and there were so many mistakes, especially in the first hour, I believe. So many execution errors, deaths, and I mean, the fake flipper death was especially cruel. I saw it coming, and it hit me like a truck. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a painful one to see. Fortunately, it didn't end up hurting you. I don't think there was anything you needed over at the waterfall.
Yeah, I think just a blue potion, I believe.
Yeah. One thing that was certainly interesting was both of you actually did the sequence break up to Death Mountain and finding the lamp and the Titan's mitts. And when you were in Eastern, we noticed that you, as soon as you got through the first 3 chests, you immediately noped out. I imagine it was because you realized that the lamp was still sequence broken, correct?
Yeah, correct. When I found mitts and lamp on Death Mountain, I knew I can find the flute somewhere early in the game, and I believe the flute is my important progression item now. It unlocks Desert for me in the Maya area, probably Maya as well, and then I can find everything I need, I believe. So I just searched for the flute everywhere, and when I found everything in Eastern that I could find in sequence, I just left. Because I thought, because of my early deaths, I'm maybe a bit behind, and I could gamble this big chest there, that it's not important later.
Well, you certainly ended up reading the seed correctly in that sense, especially with heading over to Myron Desert that way. You, of course, you checked the Lumberjack Cave as soon as you exited Escape. How much was that book weighing in your mind as the race went on?
Well, at first I thought it's not that important, especially after I checked the Dark World map and I saw Myers required, and then I found Mirror and Skywood, so I knew somewhere is a flute, so I can access Desert without the book, so it's not needed for that, and then, if it's not needed for the tablet, I don't have to do it. But as the seed went on, I was more and more afraid of it, because Bow could have been anywhere, as well as Ice Rod, basically, and both items could be so trolly, so I was quite a bit afraid again.
Yeah, that's about how we were feeling too. Parisian players at this point made his way up the gauntlet, all the way up the tower, and is in that Aga 2 fight as well. He had some very good execution on his end, and unfortunately missed the fire rod for some time.
As well as the mirror.
Also, he didn't run into Skywoods early.
Nope. He did not do the early Skullwoods play, and so Mirror kind of held him off for a while, and then once you found the fire rod in King's Tomb, that was the other thing that kind of kept holding him off. He actually went and did all of the pendant dungeons and pulled the pedestal.
Oh!
I think it was just a blue boomerang.
Yes.
As always. Oh wow, that's painful. But yeah, missing the fire rod, I don't know, because I always, or not always, but oftentimes I skip Lumberjack Cave, especially if, coming from the Christianity tournament where I started south from Kakariko and always skip it until I find the boots. I just always check the boots location after I found them, and so yeah, it's a quite quick check, I believe. So it paid off this time, big time.
It certainly did. Parisian player has made his way all the way to Phase 3 of Ganon. Did that strat I love to see in Phase 2 where you do the dash from inside the Fire Bat circle.
Yeah, we should also noted because we were during the interview that Parisian player did pull off a triple hit on Aga 2. Fails to get the torch glitch, but looks like got a double shot on Silver Arrows there, so that this one now puts him at 3, and that's game.
So GG to Parisian player on completing that. Still coming in, it looks like, under the 2-hour mark. So still an impressive run, I'd say.
Yep, just needs to walk through the door.
Or, you know, moonwalk with the bow through the door.
Either way, Parisian player finishes with an official SRTV time of 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 35 seconds. Get those GGs in chat for Parisian player as well. see if we can get Parisian Player in here for an interview. But I guess as a final note, CeroX, congrats on the first win. We certainly have 7 rounds in this Swiss stage, so there's still a lot more to go in terms of just getting out of the Swiss stage and getting into the bracket phase.
Oh, definitely. I really hope I can make it. My goal is to go like 5-2. I believe that's enough. I would be quite happy with this result. And then, yeah, I think it's possible for me, but I have definitely to play better than today. It was really sloppy.
Yeah, my understanding is that assuming no drops from the tournament, a 5-2 record will get you into that 128-person bracket stage. So there's a lot of work to do, but you're a fifth of the way there. Just do that 4 more times.
I definitely try. Thank you. And thanks for commentating, tracking, and also thanks for watching and for organizing this awesome tournament.
Yes, let's definitely give joining us in chat is Parisian Player GG.
Yeah.
GG.
Thanks. Yeah. So to explain what happened to me, I am not focused at all on Randomizer currently. I didn't play since last tournament, and I got kicked out like quickly. I didn't make any practice rando, and even last tournament I barely practiced it. So it could only go wrong, and that's what happened, I guess. I was really rusty. It was kind of obvious when watching my route, but
I think that's understandable. In many places, your execution was very on point. But yeah, routing-wise, a couple things just held you back a bit. But certainly, I'm going to be afraid of coming across you later in the tournament, if that happens.
No, you don't have to be afraid of playing me, clearly. I mean, I said my main focus is the NMG tournament, so I'm just doing that on the side for the fun, nothing serious. So I'm probably gonna take, I don't know how many losses, but for sure a lot. I won't go to the brackets or whatever. Just that, yeah. When you don't play Randomizer, at some point, your strats are awful. Like the way I dealt with Skullwoods. As soon as when I got the mirror in it, I was so like, oh yeah, I can do swamp now. That I left, I should have continued a bit to finish farming, because then I entered a second time and a third time. But yeah, I had some hopes when I saw where the bow was, and when I found after that ice rod, I was like, maybe it could be something tricky. But like, yeah, could have been. There was still a lot of things, obvious things I didn't do. I didn't do the spike room. I did not do well. I did not go for the aga shit gamble. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't go for.
Aga didn't really pay off though, because that book, you really didn't need it at all.
Yeah, but at some point I was starting to think about where I should go, and if Eastern had absolutely nothing, so that was a nice way to do a dungeon, go to Sarasrala, and then do a blind triple, Pettis pool.
Well, for all of those problems, I'll still give you props for being able to complete all this in under 2 hours.
Yeah, I'd say that's one of the positive points because last tournament, among the 6 games, there were 2 where I had to forfeit because I was not able to finish the seed. So at least, despite not playing at all, I finished the seed and I still knew where the next step in case of I was missing, where I didn't get the fire rod. So.
Well, that's certainly a positive takeaway from this. I think we'll wrap it up at this point. Thanks again to both runners for competing in this. This tournament, of course, doesn't happen without you. Best of luck to both of you in the future. There's a match going on Speed Gaming right now that I expect we'll be headed over to. Shoutouts again to Epic Ranger for tracking that, keeping things updated so Jex and I knew what was going on. I've been Philion, and I've been joined by the great Jex Refi, who's going to get the final word tonight. Good night, all.
And that final word is, I'm off to bed. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye, and GG again, CeroX.
GG.